Curran, thank you for joining us. I think I'm here on Facebook Live with PESI with Kolk, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. So I just got back from Innovations conference where I did a 2-hour kind of talk about just what's up with psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. And it's not in general. It really is for people with trauma. So what I'm going to talk about a little bit is MDMA, talk about ketamine, and talk about psilocybin. Most of the questions that people have are, is it legal? And I'm going to start off with just saying, for right now, the only one of the drugs that's not even a classic psychedelic, it's ketamine. Ketamine is being used a lot off-label for trauma, for depression, for a lot of other things. And they are in clinics now that are ketamine-assisted psychotherapy clinics that I think a lot of them, if not most of them, not the infusion clinics, but most of them are really not just placeholders. They like to use this drug ketamine, but they're waiting for MDMA to come out because MDMA, if you haven't heard, MDMA assisted psychotherapy is really what's new in the field of trauma therapy. So if you are working with trauma, this is something that you really need to know because it is what's next in our field. When we talk about what research has been done, it is finished. So they have done the meta-analysis. And right now, I think I'll give you one number. The number is 88% of the people with complex PTSD in the MAPS second phase of the second part of the third phase of the trials, 88% no longer fit criteria for PTSD. I'll tell you about the sessions if that's something that people are interested in. There's a way that it was done that's probably going to have to be changed for clinical use because it's a lot of time with therapists, right? You would do 3 sessions of prep work, 90 minutes each. This is what they did in the research. And then they would do a dosing session. They would do 3 sessions of integration, which were 90-minute sessions with 2 therapists. Then they do another dosing session, another 3 integration sessions, another dosing session, and another 3 integration sessions. Basically, I have a lot of questions for what is my opinion about it? My opinion is this is coming, and if we do it right, it is going to be mind-blowing. So about 3 years ago, I had zero desire to learn anything about psychedelics. I remember when I was growing up hearing the stories that, if you took this psychedelic, you're going to jump off the roof, you're going bananas, you're going crazy, or worse yet, like, okay, so if you survive all that, then all your eggs or your sperm are going to be ruined. So that's what I grew up hearing. So I really had no desire. And then I had a client, and this is probably all of us, right? When you're running out of tools. I consider myself a good trauma therapist. I'm a specialist in that field. And I had a client who I had run out of options with. We had done tons of work, but he got a diagnosis, and his diagnosis was idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, which is a death sentence unless you get 2 new lungs. And part of it was, well, what do I do here? Because the guy all he has is anxiety about dying, and it is unabated with anything we've done and unabated with any of the drugs that were available to him. So when I was younger, I was a respiratory therapist and I was on the ethics committee. And the ethics committee, most of the time we spent was about palliative care and how to keep people comfortable as you're still treating them, and then treat the families too, because there was always problems of, letting somebody off, like taking somebody off the ventilator or not. But during that time, I got really interested in the palliative care of what they were doing down at Hopkins. So at Johns Hopkins, Roland Griffith was running some studies on people with stage 4 cancer. And I remembered that, and I thought, let me look at this and see if this could help my client. So I did a deep dive into it. But anyway, there was this interview from Anderson Cooper and a whole bunch of stuff that I actually was thinking, like, this sounds awesome, right? This sounds like it would be so helpful. So I talked to him about it. I talked to his wife about it. And then I thought, well, how am I going to do this? Because I really want to keep my license, right? So I went onto LinkedIn and I found this company it was called Beyond.com. And it was a guy who was a psychiatrist who had they let his medical license go, and he became a medicine person, so he could work with psilocybin and he could carry it on the plane, right? So I thought, well, I don't know anything about this, so deep dive, right? And then I go and I meet my friend Mary Mike. Me and Mary Mike go out to Utah, right? Because we both have clients that we're like, okay, what now? So we meet there, and we do a little bit of prep work, not too much. You kind of had to be screened a little bit, but then it was met the two people that were going to hold space for us, which just means there was no therapy happening. It was just they were going to take notes on what was happening. So I had my very first experience, in Utah, just to see, can I recommend this? Because I really don't like to recommend anything that I haven't done myself. So we did it. I came back, this was December of 19. So in 2020, January, this guy and a few other people came and they held space. I held space for my client with them there. So they're allowed to bring the drugs at the time. Again, I said I was real attached to my license. So I was there. I put a voice recorder on them, and I, watched them. We did a whole, mindfulness thing, got them prepared. And I mean, the preparation was weeks before this, but this is just for the day. So he took the tea, and 4 hours later, he had zero death anxiety. And I thought, oh, magic mushrooms, right? Yeah, magic indeed. So I said I was just at this conference, and I showed a clip of him because he had died a few times, right? And he got new lungs. And in June, I was in teaching a seminar, and I got this clip. It was from his wife. He was speaking at his daughter's wedding. Gave the speech. So anyway, that was after, he when I say he died a couple times, right? Because he was on, he got his transplant, but then we had COVID, and he was at Penn, and so he was watching a lot of people die, and again, that death anxiety never returned for him. So I was sold on it, and so that was the day that I signed up for the MAPS course. MAPS is the multidisciplinary. Let me make sure I get it right. Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. And if you're interested at all, that is the guy, Rick Doblin, who runs that place, is the hero as we hear of the story, because it took him 35 years to take this drug, MDMA, that was in 1987 made illegal, right? So folks had been using it with trauma for a long time, right? But when they made it illegal, a lot of people had to go underground. But Rick Doblin did not. Rick Doblin established this MAPS organization, and for 35 years they've been working with FDA to get it approved. And like I said, the meta-analysis has been done, and it's out of the park, is what I say. Like, the numbers are it's staggering. When we talk about, we won't go into the probabilities and stuff like that. But anyway, that's what sold me. MDMA-assisted psychotherapy is supposed to be coming in 2024, meaning in order for a doctor to write for it now, like they're doing in Australia and some places in Canada, it has to be rescheduled by our DEA. And right now, it is a Schedule I drug that is, as is cannabis. They're both up there with heroin. So they say they have no medical use, and they have high degree of addiction. Well, MDMA has some addiction components to it. We know that because people who have used ecstasy or used it in different settings, not this kind of psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, right? They weren't studying the drug. They were studying the psychedelic-assisted therapy with the psychedelic MDMA. So I think that I'm going to take questions, but I would say for us, that's the first one that's coming. So as soon as they reschedule it, meaning they'll probably reschedule it to a Schedule II drug, then doctors can order it. You can't order a drug that has no medical value, right? So all of the last 35 years were to prove that this drug with therapy was an efficacious treatment, not only for a single incident, but for complex PTSD. And these are folks who had a lot of dissociation, a lot of depersonalization, derealization, which is the hardest for us to treat. So I am a big fan. Also, psilocybin was the drug that my client took, and psilocybin is it's a classical psychedelic. And there's not a lot of therapy that goes on during the dosing session, but a lot before and after. Big fan of that. Ketamine is the other one. Ketamine is not a psychedelic. It is a dissociative anesthetic, but it's being used as a psychedelic in a sense that it is an opening to, I would say, an opening to the unconscious, which all of them really would be windows to the unconscious, because the stuff that is presented actually, comes from our unconscious. And we can, if you're not a therapist that is working with a dosing session, you can work with it as if it's unconscious material from dreams. I think that even if you have no desire to hold space for a dosing session, you still need to be educated about, what drugs are available, where they are, because we have a lot of clients now coming in saying, "Can I get this drug? Can I get this drug?" And the fact of the matter is, right now, the only one that is legal is ketamine. And ketamine, when I say it's legal and it's prescribable, there's only one that has been really said that you can use it on label, and that's Spravato. And Spravato is a nasal spray. So ketamine in a nasal spray you can use for intractable depression, and has been shown to be very helpful. Some of the ketamine infusion clinics, they're using it too, and they don't do therapy with it. And I think they have immediate success, but there's not a lot of integration. So it doesn't hold as long. So again, what's being studied right now are not the drugs psilocybin, are not the drugs MDMA. They're being studied as psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. So again, it should be us. It should be the trauma therapists. It should be the people who have already been working with trauma that really add this as a tool. There are plenty of people that are working with this underground. And I'm sure there's ways that people can do this, but for when it's being medicalized and it's being used by therapists right now, I think we have to be as cautious as possible, only because of the backlash that psychedelics has, because I just told you what my opinion was it before, I was forced to take in more information, right? So the more information that I got made it very, very helpful for me to say, yeah, this is something I can recommend. But again, there's caveats. It's not for everybody. A lot of the questions are, why not bipolar? If you have bipolar disorder, or if you have psychotic disorder, you weren't in the trial, so we don't know that we can generalize it to that population. There's a lot of people that ask, what is it? What is it prescribed for? Right now, they're doing all kinds of research. So from substance use disorder to anorexia, OCD. So a lot of the really hard to treat conditions that we don't have a whole lot of success with, and we don't have medications for, those are the ones that these medications and therapy are going to be really very helpful for. So again, even if you don't want to hold, if you don't want really to learn too much about the drugs, you do need to know about, how a client could prepare for it. You need to know some of the places that are doing it that are not in the United States. You need to know that in Oregon right now, if you're not a therapist, there's a place where you can get psilocybin and you can hold space for other folks, supposedly for healthy individuals. But if you have a license, I think again you risk your license there. I think that's going to be changing. People don't want to get trained in it yet, but I have to say, if you're working with trauma, you're going to be working with these medications. So I have my fingers crossed that both psilocybin and MDMA in the next two or 3 years, both of them will be available, because both of them are breakthrough therapy status, which means the FDA has, they really want these drugs to come to market, because we don't really have anything that is treating the client that we can treat the clients with that's really effective. So that's where I am, Cole. If there's a question that says, what's my opinion? Oh, I have lots of opinions, but on this particular thing, my opinion is get educated. It is what we need to know, because my opinion is it's what's next in our field. That's what I got, Cole. Next question. Can anyone utilize psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy with their clients? Well, I think I answered that question. You cannot, because you can do ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, but you have to be trained in that as well. There's plenty of training programs, and they're up on my website. My website is trauma101.com, and there's right now it's being updated, and there's 3 pages worth of resources for people that you can go to, and it'll be up by Friday. So like I said, I was out at Innovations, and people were asking about ketamine. Now, ketamine, again, it is being written off label for so many things. So if you have a physician, or you have a physician that will write for it and will sit with you, then people can do it. But the recommendation is you absolutely need to be trained in it, right? So again, where to get trained? There's plenty of places to get trained, and I am lucky enough to that I was lucky enough that during the pandemic, I was able to get trained by MAPS. Like I said, that was the very first thing I did because I had to know what was going. I had to know, like, wait a minute, if this is so effective, why aren't we using it? And when can we use it? So again, Rick Doblin, Michael Mithofer, they made this possible. And then for psilocybin over in the UK, they've been studying at Imperial College, Robin Carhart Harris and Rosalind Watts. She sat for over 100 people at Imperial College, while they did their psilocybin session. There's manuals. MAPS has a manual too. And like I said, I'm going to have 3 pages of resources up. You can download the manuals. You can read it and see if it's something that you're interested in. Again, there's tons of research available. And can anybody do it? The answer is nobody can do it unless you've been trained in it. And ketamine is the only one that you can get trained that you can use right now legally off label. The other ones you have to go to another country or you have to wait until next year. Hopefully MDMA is prescribable, and we already have CPT codes, which means that there's insurance codes, so doctors can write for it, and there's a code for it already. So everybody has their fingers crossed for MDMA. Like I said, psilocybin has breakthrough therapy status too, but it is probably about 18 months to 2 years behind MDMA here in the States. Again, a little different at Imperial College over in the UK. There's a website also I'd like to send you to that is drugscience.com. And if you're interested in not just the history in each one of those drugs, there's history for all of the classic psychedelics, history for MDMA, history for ketamine, but there's also the pharmacology of it. So if that's of interest to you, I'll send you there, drugscience.com. If you're interested in the research that was done on MDMA, again, that's MAPS. I don't have the website for it offhand, but if you just Google the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, tons and tons of information. You got another question for me? Oh, well, I have a course. I have a 12-hour course because, like I said, okay, this is my last question. So I have a course. It's a 12-hour course, and it goes over those 3 drugs, ketamine, psilocybin, and MDMA, and it has all the big names in it. Like I said, Michael Mithofer, Bessel, all the names in trauma are there too. But there's some names you're going to hear too, like Carhart Harris. You're going to hear about Rosalind Watts. You're going to hear from Leslie Korn, who is about integrative medicine. There's a lot of people on it. And it really is the future of trauma treatment. So I don't necessarily say you have to see my program, but really start to get interested and start to see what's available in your area. Because what MAPS likes to do is embed their programs into other programs. So there's like hubs. So there'd be hubs of support so people can get, you can have peer-to-peer support of what you're doing. I think that's really the advice I have for you. I mean, I'm very excited about it, and I'm very excited that I got the education, whether or not that it becomes legal, in the next 6 months or not. It's still something that I'm thrilled to know about, and thrilled to know that even if it is, even if psilocybin doesn't make it this next year or the year after, that it is coming. So I'm really excited for it. All of us, to tell you the truth. That was my last question. So I get to say thank you for coming, I think. Yeah, we good? Cole, am I supposed to stop talking when that